Hello, friends. It's time for another weekly roundup. We're going to take a look at some weekly price charts, Bitcoin and altcoins, and see where we are after this wild dump price action. Start with Bitcoin and recognize the levels that the price has dropped down to. This week, around the beginning of June, it was the beginning of the next leg of dropping down pretty hard, wasn't it? So we look here towards the lower end of the Bollinger Band, broke down, dumped below the 200-week moving average, dumped for the first time into the previous all-time high price action, was able to reclaim above the zone here of the previous all-time high and above this price action zone here. So it did reclaim that and close above that, but that's not very meaningful just yet. Really what we want to watch for is the way the price action plays out around the 200-week moving average. It might even go above it, but if it comes back below, that's similar to what happened here with the 20, and that's not good at all. So yeah, we're going to watch what happens at the upper end around there, which is about 22K. And towards the lower end, we're going to watch for, playing through this price action again into the 18s and 17s possibly. And then of course, there's this lower zone down here, which basically we have the line around 12,000-ish. And so the question becomes, how long will the RSI be oversold? And in that case, also, what will the price action be doing as it chops around there? There's definitely calls, and it looks like possibilities for the price to move up and down within this kind of a range, even all the way up to here. But that would be actually more sign of strength and a potential sign of basing within this region here, rather than basing or at least capitulating down into this level here and then coming back up here to base. That's also possible. The other point is, though, ultimately when we look at this whole structure here, this small deviation above the previous all-time high and then breakdown and then further just massive weakness, you're getting more than a one-to-one retracement, one-to-one extension here. If we take this extension tool and basically go high to low, and then the next high to low, we're well beyond the one-to-one, nearly 160.18 of that extension. And so watch out for this weakness here for sure, which means time. It just means time. I mean, it doesn't mean that the price has to break down to 3,000. However, 10,000 is not out of the question at this point, especially because this is where the price really started taking off. We can consider this V shape as part of the whole structure here. Then this really took off and blew off. So then this kind of weakness up here, where it just barely breaks out and then it just follows with tremendous downside reversal, it allows the price to come very close to where it took off from. So and I mean, really, how much of a strong structural support is this? We're going to find out. But this down here at 12K is reasonable. However, a lot of people are waiting for it down there, so it might not necessarily have to go all the way down there. But the fact that the price is below the 200-week moving average means it's currently in a weak position and would require time to play out in these types of levels. Of course, there could be a quick move to the upside that gets rejected around the cloud or wherever, maybe under this 28,000 level here at the previous lows. So sure, and then that can allow the price to take time into 2023, even if needed. However, we're going to see what that ends up being over time. Needless to say, though, I repeat myself saying that the price is going to come down here and range, or it's going to range in between here and find its basing. But currently the weakness is pretty strong. And if we were to retrace from this kind of breakout level area, which was just around here, this is a rough estimate and guide, you know, 78.6 is around the 16K, and the 88.6 is all the way down at the 13.7-ish level, 13.5 level. So I could see, especially being below the 200-week moving average, I could definitely see the 88.6, 78.6 level here between 13 to 17K being hit and holding. I don't know if it needs to go all the way 1-to-1, all the way down to this 11. I think that would be a quite scary weakness. Maybe a wick hits there, but and then if we take it for really from the March 2020 lows, then we're really in a terrible position to go to the 78.6 or 88.6. That's when we really want to be bouncing off the 61.8, and that's at least traditionally a sign of reasonable strength and potential continuation to new all-time highs, rather than breaking down even further over time. So that's the kind of thoughts so far for the BTC price chart that I've got going. I prefer, like I said, to take it from here. This is where it started blowing off, whereas this portion here is potentially part of the rest of this action here, before having that certainty of the move up. And then this whole part here is just a distribution, a weakness, a non-continuation of this uptrend, and then the breakdown. And so it's going to take time for sure. It's going to take some time. How much time? We start looking at the monthly price charts, but that's for another time. Right now, we're going to just keep it on the weeklies and say that there is definitely weeks that it could take to reestablish a floor, a basing pattern, and what that's going to look like is tough. I don't think we're going to look like this move here, this capitulation down, and then move back up to the zone and the levels where it was. That would mean, we move back up to here and then start being comfortable here. But this Ichimoku cloud, it's just too close to being above it. So I get the sense that if anything, the basing goes between here and here. But an easier play is for the price to break down further and then base down here, let the 200. But that becomes even worse. If the 200-week moving average starts turning over, then you're really in a bad position. At least right now, the 200-week moving average is still trending to the up. So, if you've got to stay down here a few weeks, it's fine. And if you can get back above, I think it would be easier if the price makes it further back down, then shoots back up and then works its way back above the 200-week eventually. But definitely you want to watch for the angulation of the 200-week moving average. And again, because of this weakness here of this price action compared to the previous one, because this was such a big correction and then move back up, I think that it allows for the price to really be weak and have to clear out some time into 2023, if need be. It could involve moves up and down that, relatively speaking, could go 70, 50, 75%, no problem if that's what it needs to be, especially if it dumps lower down. You can go 100% moves, maybe you go 60% moves to the upside and such. We'll see, but that would allow the price to take its time. But yeah, I think one thing we're going to watch here on the weekly chart is this 200-week moving average. What's the trajectory of the 200-week moving average? As it starts turning over, if the price is below it, that's going to be quite deadly and dangerous. So let's watch out and see how this plays out. So far, we're holding at the previous all-time high in terms of closing price and traded within previous price action. So, but now below the 200-week. And at the same time, though, we're at the lower end of the Bollinger Bands. And again, if price is going to take some time to at least go sideways into the Bollinger Band, even if it keeps dumping after that, but you might have 1 or 2 to 3 weeks to have the price chop up and down here. If it does go sideways, then definitely the price will come and touch the 22,500, at least to retest the 200-week moving average with a wick, I would imagine. Anyway, okay, so that's where we are with Bitcoin. And now we're going to move on to altcoin price charts and see what kind of levels they're hitting. And yeah, let's enjoy what we find, okay? And maybe cry a bit too if it's not so enjoyable. So let's go first with the KMD monster. We're using the Binance price data on the weekly right now, and currently, you know, if we're definitely at the lows of the lows in BTC price chart terms. It's been from outside the Bollinger Band, chopping its way back in. I've drawn this descending wedge formation type of a move here, energy of the move here, even though it's touching once, twice, a little bit over here and here, whatever. Nothing too much. We're just trying to hold on to some sort of shape that will either get broken to the upside or to the downside. Most likely to the upside, but really what's that going to mean in terms of rebounds to go higher? It's not clear. Looks like there is potential from the lower end of the Bollinger Band to get at least to the 20-week moving average is very likely, but you know, maybe even up towards the top of the Bollinger Band. So that's possible, but in terms of longer term moves, what is this going to need to look like? What is KMD going to do? It'll be interesting to watch because we're coming out again from an oversold position. So what's going to happen here over the next number of months? And then what happens to the RSI and how does it relate to price? Does it just, you know, does it correspond to a big volatility, or is it just does it correspond to some fizzling activity? However, you know, the Bollinger Bands, if we look closer, Bollinger Bands have this potential. They're relatively narrow, so even though they just widened a bit, but yeah, so we'll see what happens here at this stage of price action for the KMD price chart. All right, it's relatively weak at its lower of lows, but it's got this wedge here, potential to break over and above, but really right now there's nothing signaling. You know, it's relatively quiet, I guess that's what I'm saying. So here we've got a bullish MACD cross on the weekly, and so what is that going to mean? Who knows? You know, look how many positive histogram days we had here, and what did the price do? That's all of this. Come on, price. That's all of this right here. See, this is a sign that, you know, positive histogram and bullish MACD crossing. Look, the price was basically trending downwards this whole time that we had a positive histogram. So whatever, it's currently meaningless. That's general sense. All right. Although maybe it's like, you know, signaling, okay, yeah, we're dumping down, but things are just slowing down. The downtrend might be slowing down. Okay, that's where we are with this price chart. So we're going to leave it there with the KMD. We're going to move on. We're going to move on to the pirate chain, holding just above the 2,000 Satoshis level on the weekly price chart. It's a decent level of potential support here. Otherwise, if it breaks down this level here, we are going towards that 1,000 or even 900 Satoshis level. It's just the way it is. But yeah, so far it's looking like it's got a bit of potential here to turn around. We may get some relatively positive price, momentum here. And overall, I think we're in a nice position where we did our big up, our big down, and now hopefully we're just like basing before when is the next time going to be. Maybe it's in 2023, maybe it's 2024, maybe it does a big one and then it comes back down, but they're relatively small and whatever. We'll see what the price action looks like, but ultimately this looks nice and clean. And let's find some neutrality, some low momentum, accumulatory price action. Because this is against BTC, so that'll mean quiet. Alt against BTC is good because then it can run against BTC as well to the upside. Of course, can run to the downside, but based on the way the price charts tend to move in, if it's looking good, gets a big run up and then a slow bleed down, and then maybe it'll base somewhere. Hopefully, you know, the sign of strength is when it bases at a higher low than the previous low. Then that's a sign of strength to then go to the next level. Does that mean breaking the previous all-time high? That's not necessarily certain, but it does mean a positive cycle to the upside again, whatever that means. Okay, so we're going to find out what that means because you're going to keep watching. But ultimately, we've got that down move. It's given us a bump up and down, so we need to find again something accumulatory within this type of range. That's the strongest thing we can find right now, I think. Oops, we are going to leave it at that. Is there anything else to say about Pirate Chain? Yeah, like, I mean, you got some good support here, but watch out because it could just be making a lower high and then dumping further down, lower end of the Bollinger Band down here. And this uptrending, you know, support we've drawn from these points here, fine. Lower end of the Bollinger Band more so than anything, from upper end to lower end potentially, but that would mean likely a lower price action than here, which means, yeah, we could definitely see the price down these levels. It's totally possible. All right, but we're hoping here for the support and the signs of strength in this area here to let the price action stay at a higher low. All right, here we go. So that's Pirate Chain. So far, looking okay, I think, but beware of further downside. Okay, we move over to some crypto charts on the other side here with the ADA, the BTC, showing quite the strength. That 200-week moving average definitely holding strong, lower end of the Bollinger Band. So that was a clear, good zone for getting in long. Then we got some rejections around the 20-week moving average, but that didn't stop the price from continuing higher. So yeah, either look for a deviation and then a dump further down, or maybe even a move to this kind of resistance level here, which corresponds to the upper end of the Bollinger Band. And then the price can turn back down potentially. Yeah, that's definitely possible. I still think, you know, momentum wise, it made such a huge move up and it made its crash down. Now it is going to make a move up, but I don't think it even has to get into the positive territory. I think it could stay down first before it goes positive. I don't know. We'll see what it looks like, but I don't think you necessarily have to rebound with a huge price action, you know, based on this kind of momentum that just fires up. I think a move to the upper end of the Bollinger Band where you have this previous resistance and this previous support turned resistance. I think that's a reasonable level for now to consider. And then see what happens, because yeah, again, I get the sense that, okay, you made your move down. Now you come up again and you're just kind of hopeful, like the best case scenario is you accumulate here. The challenge is going to be as you start to meet an Ichimoku cloud that might be going down. But at least, yeah, that seems like the best case scenario for ADA right now is base around here. And even if it means touching the Ichimoku cloud, whatever, that's pretty strong there in that case, especially if you can make a higher low than this low after that. But either way, if this low, wherever it bases, is higher than these lows, then you're in a really good position for the next run for ADA. That's higher lows. Anytime you're making higher lows than that, the only problem will be if you don't break the previous highs, then you're in a weaker position. Anyway, so that's pretty cool. We're going to definitely watch out on ADA. We've got this kind of zone here as a hopeful floor, you know, and this becomes like a previous accumulation range here, which in itself involved this super duper good accumulation range down there, which is right down there. So, okay, that's ADA looking good overall. And we're going to watch where does the price top out and then where does it come back down. But that's the sense that we're getting. We'll see how long the positive momentum lasts on these altcoins against Bitcoin. Okay, especially if Bitcoin is going to be slowly going sideways into its Bollinger Band from that lower end. That gives the altcoins a chance to be a bit volatile to the upside and potentially even to the downside if need be after going up. So we move on from ADA, which is looking pretty good overall for now. Then we get to THETA, which itself as well is looking pretty good. Look, all these altcoins have had some good moves now. Okay, THETA made this move, which you would love to see Bitcoin make, where it breaks below its 200-week moving average, spends 1, 2, 3, 4 more weeks down below, and then of the 5th week here, it has basically closed above 200-week moving average, and now it's fighting being squeezed between the 20-week and the 200-week moving averages. So this is definitely going to be a sign of weakness for THETA if it breaks down below the 200-week moving average after being above it, trading above it, and especially if it closes above it, let's say this week, and then the following week it's rejected by this 20-week moving average again, and it dumps below and closes below. That would definitely be a warning sign for weakness on the THETA price chart. Definitely a warning sign of weakness. So it's in a potentially dangerous zone here. Although if it can continue higher, it's breaking above this resistance here and making it to the top of the Bollinger Band. That's the best case scenario for THETA. I guess any altcoin that's coming from the lower end of its Bollinger Band, best case scenario for now is going to be top of the Bollinger Band. Although this level here at around 7,000 Satoshis is going to be a tough level to crack because it's previous resistance, and you've got previous support that would potentially turn resistance again. We'll see though. Yeah, and again, you got this bullish MACD cross on the MACD, so potential for strength, but it might just be short-lived. At least with THETA though, if you can get above this 200-week moving average and somehow hold that would be great. Then that would prevent a full reset all the way down to previous accumulation range from happening. And then it would be like ADA. It would be like ADA if it can find this kind of level. But the thing is, at least ADA's, Cardano has its 200-week moving average in a more favorable position. If the 200-week moving average on THETA were down here, where the price base, that would be super much better. But in this case, it looks like, yeah, you might need to come further down to base. But that's where this idea might come into play, Anyway, so it got its move up. It's getting its move up, this move up. That's kind of what we were looking for. I didn't know where it was going to come, but so you're kind of like doing that now. And maybe it doesn't stop here. Maybe it goes higher, whatever. We're going to find out. But if it's weak around here, then yeah, expect these lower levels here to play out, at least to get, support at the top end of the box into this previous price action. We're going to see as THETA, you got that bullish MACD cross. And in fact, I just want to check ADA again and just determine it probably got some bullish crossing a couple weeks. Yeah, see, it wasn't this week. It was a couple weeks ago, or last week, I should say. Well, that's where you had that bullish MACD cross. Okay. Now let's move on to, let's look at ICX as well and just see what level are you at right now. Ooh, broke to all-time lows, right? And it was at the lower end of the Bollinger Band there, chopping around there, trying to reclaim these previous all-time low levels and close above that. So it's getting there. Again, potentially a move higher is coming. We don't quite have a bullish MACD cross yet here, but it could be coming, which it likely will. If it's going to follow the momentum of everything else, then we're going to get a bullish MACD cross on ICX. Is it just going to get rejected here at the 20-week moving average? Likely possible, or it could try and get up to a previous level of significance. So that's where we are with ICX. Let's move on to DERO. DERO is quite the mover. We did get our move down into this lower end of this box to this line. This line was here for a long time based on this price action and this price action, and it finally came back to it. I mean, you got to respect the levels and the movements of the price action. It takes time. It took a lot of time, but it did get there, nearly there, close enough, whatever. That in itself, it's not quite a 61.8 move from low to high, but that could mean that there's more room to go. 78.6 is down here. So the overall guess, considering that DERO is below the Ichimoku cloud, maybe it's going to come up to the 20-week and even maybe to the Ichimoku. But overall, I think time-wise, we are looking at, let's give it a bit of it. I'll go here. What are we looking at here? Yeah, we're definitely looking at a potential channeling continuing to down to this level. And that's fair enough. It makes the shape, like a slide. You go up and then you come down. That makes sense. So here we are. Don't be surprised on a move higher. All right. Yeah. Well, haven't quite. At the same time, it might just be a move to the. Let me include. Oops, that's not what we want. We want to touch that and include style middle. Okay. So yeah, it might just get a rejection at the middle. It doesn't necessarily have to come to the top of it, but who knows what things are going to look like at this point. Just bottom line is that it looks like we're getting a nice channel towards the downside, and based on this move up and a 78.6 retracement and the time frame that might need to clear things out, we're looking at 2023 being down here. So I'll see you in 2023 down here, and if not, that'll be lovely. It'll be above the Ichimoku cloud and we're out of there. That's huge, but I think it's safe to say this is a safe bet down here. Now, even better, if you're not going to work this, then instead, let's just imagine, hide that for a moment. Instead, some sort of horizontal, horizontal support there instead of a channel downward, and then it just bounces here. That's huge, but much less likely. So I don't know what, I'm just saying that off the feeling of it, it just doesn't seem like that would be the way it would go. So instead, we bring back the parallel channel and we say this is a good guess. Okay, for now. We'll find out though. Yeah, let's move on. That's DERO. Okay, TRAC against BTC. Where are you in relation to bullish MACD crosses? Not quite yet, potentially soon. Where are you in relation to your 200-week moving average? You are reclaiming it currently in this current week, similar to, what was that, THETA? So similar to THETA, you're trying to reclaim this 200-week moving average. So that would be bullish. You're coming from the lower end of the Bollinger Band, potential to make a bullish MACD cross, but regardless of what it does, your potential to move up to the 20-week moving average with a bit of strength. However, there's also potential to move up higher to this top of the Bollinger Band. And because you're getting this kind of energy here from the previous highs here, is potential to hop over that to the upside. So that's what you have. And of course, if the price is going to dump further down, I mean, that makes sense. You're breaking below, again, the 200-week moving average. So that shows that you tried to get it back, but you couldn't to the upside. And so now you're back below it and you're going to dump much further or more significantly, even if you're going down towards these lower prices. But if you can hold this, that would be such strength. Wow. Wow. And I think this, you know, similar to Cardano, you had this low end here. Some of these altcoins that are potentially going to go bigger and better and potentially have the potential to break their previous all-time highs, they're going to need to make the higher lows. Like that just gives you a bigger bounce to the upside. If you make a lower low, then okay, sure. I mean, I guess as long as you're making a higher low than all of this. All right, at that point, you'd want to be making, you know, higher than this at least. Yeah, so there's Origin Trail. I think it's looking relatively decent right now, above the 200-week moving average. If it can hold that this week, that's solid. And I get the sense it might. We'll see. All right, cool. That's Origin Trail. TRAC against BTC. Okay, let's move on. We're looking at BNB now. BNB had a couple of scares. It went into the Ichimoku cloud. No, not quite. Not quite. But it did break below. This was, I think, the big Luna week, the big Luna capitulation week. Then, you know, showing relative potential weakness here. I did notice though that it is getting this bullish MACD cross on the MACD here, getting a bullish cross. So there is possibility there. However, you're still in this positive territory, and yeah, it can go higher, but oof, BNB either is going to be such a darling or it's continuing to make lower highs and it's going to have some trouble if that's the case. You know, if it's just going to make these lower highs, the Bollinger Bands are narrowing. Okay, you have the Ichimoku cloud below it, but just like we're going to see with Ethereum, if it doesn't quickly reclaim these levels, then it looks like you're making some sort of, you know, some sort of distribution, and eventually you go lower because this is like a potential long-term distribution, and then you dump. And you've got this moving average here. Sorry, not moving average, trend line here, all-time trend line. So maybe the price is, I don't know what's going to happen. You got this 200-week moving average that's going to be continuing to move up, but starting to flatten out. So the price could definitely come to these levels. The question is, would it break this trend line? And if it does, wow, what does that mean long term? I mean, what's going to happen with BNB against BTC long term? So currently, you know, the best hope is more market to price activity to the upside, you know, momentum to the upside, momentum to the upside. But at some point, yeah, maybe one of these capitulations is going to happen. And if so, where does it go? I don't know. Well, for now, you've got the 200-week, the Ichimoku cloud and 200-week below the price. You've even got the 20-week moving average below the price, okay? Safely below the price. But if you're breaking down below the Ichimoku, I mean, the 200-week might be your friend and give you some support, but anytime you're below the Ichimoku cloud, you're probably getting weak or already weak enough that you're going to need a bunch of time below there. So yeah, so far I'm calling very concerning price action on BNB unless it can reclaim higher than all-time highs. So definitely we're going to keep a close eye on that. I think it's safe to provide an uptrending support as well. Okay, something like that. We're just playing a rough game. So yeah, this could be interesting. definitely could pop to the upside. Okay, that would be that would be very wild. But I think equally wild and potentially devastating is if it starts breaking down significantly. Yeah. So we're going to see. We're going to see how this looks within. By the time 2023 rolls around, we'll have definitely a good idea. But within these next number of months, it's going to be interesting to watch this price action next 3 to 6 months. Cool. That's BNB against BTC. Link against BTC. Let's see what kind of levels we found support with Link. Okay, so yeah, it's been one of those alts that's trying to reclaim levels, is trying to reclaim the 20-week moving average, still well below the 200, but I think we can touch the top of the Bollinger Band and get rejected by the 200-week moving average again. I think that's possible. But if it can't break these kind of previous support turn to resistance, then we're definitely coming back down here, if not most likely down to these kinds of levels. So yeah, interesting so far for Chainlink. Still overall, you're at a higher low than these lows. So even if you come down to these levels down here and find your support and your basing, that's pretty good. But for now, it looks like everything is making its bullish MACD crosses. I guess technically it did it last week on Link. But you know, maybe you get 1 or 2 weeks to the upside and then you turn down again. Stuff like this. Stuff like this. Might see something like that here. That's my guess. I think that's what it's going to be for a lot of the alts. And that's why I'm concerned about the BNB price. I mean, not real concern, just like concern in terms of potential for downside and what that might do to that chart and the overall trend on the macro for BNB. And what that would mean in terms of like the news that people are looking at to attribute that, because it might change what the market participants do, who knows. But I'm not trying to flood the BNB. If anything, it looks like it could continue higher and be super strong against BTC. We'll see though. Next, this is Link we're talking. And we move over to XRP and see what kind of weakness or strength we have got relatively on the weekly. No cross yet, but it looks like it would like to. And in that way, it's challenging the previous supports turned now resistance around the 20-week moving average. So can it get higher than that? And if so, is it just going to get rejected at the Ichimoku cloud? So let's see what happens with Ripple, XRP. The good thing it's got going for it so far still is the higher lows. So let's see if that can be maintained and see where it goes from there. Otherwise, the other thing is you're looking to break that type of wedge. So it relatively looks decent. I think Ripple could, or XRP could jump over and find regain some support here and maybe even push higher. We're going to see what kind of bullish momentum we get with a bullish MACD cross if that comes. And if it doesn't come, that'll just be a sign of that weakness, and it's going to keep tumbling a bit further first. But it could reject here and tumble further, and you know, we're into September, October down here, and it's totally possible. But we'll see. It's got also a nice likelihood of popping higher and seeing what happens that and playing the price action in this area here, you know, into September, October. That would be decent. Okay, that's it for XRP for now. Let's move over to the Ethereum against BTC. Now, Ethereum against BTC, we definitely look at the cloud, the Ichimoku cloud, and see, you know, it played an important supportive role here. Now we're at the lower end of the Bollinger Band after being outside of it on the how do you say, impulsive capitulation downside move. And the impulsive moves are always stretching the Bollinger Bands, and they are the price is basically outside of the Bollinger Band. And then once it loses that momentum, it starts to generally, oftentimes it'll go sideways back in. And so that's where it seems we are again, just similar to BTC. we are there with Ethereum. I don't think we get a bullish MACD cross anytime soon here, but we are in a relatively, it's not even oversold yet on the weekly. So, you know, didn't go lower than about 30. So, but that is quite low and bearish, and it's in a bearish controlled zone. So we're going to see what continues here with Ethereum. But anyway, broke below this important level, relatively important level, which corresponded with about the top of the Ichimoku cloud. And so now we're at the lower end of the Ichimoku cloud, and I think that this is just the beginning. Yeah, your price might eventually kind of sideways and then kind of go higher here, but I think you get rejected by this underside level here now, and then you continue further. Just a sense that I get, maybe not, but weakness on Ethereum. The one thing that's concerning about this one as well is the fact that it made a lower high than the previous high. So it's technically making a potential downtrend. Now, the good thing is that it's potentially making a triangular move. So maybe it does this and goes higher off of the 200-week moving average. That would be great. But, you know, once you break down below the Ichimoku cloud, again, it starts getting concerning, very concerning. And then that's when the 200-week comes into play, where it coalesces with or confluences with the previous top of that price action resistance area, potential support. Wow, that's good. But again, looks difficult for Ethereum price action right now. It really does. This is quite a distributive price action. So that's already, that took time, but it also like cleared out a lot of liquidity, and the next set of decent supportive liquidity is probably down here. So what does that mean? That means you're really like even maybe losing the 200-week moving average, and that means a lot of time. That might, you know, the Ethereum price chart against Bitcoin didn't make an all-time high against the previous high, and so now you're working with a lower high. So the next best possibility is to make a higher low somewhere in there, and then better than that is you hold above the 200-week, and then better than that is you can hold somewhere here in the cloud, and then you can continue higher. And that's actually possible too. I think that's your reasonable scenario, but it just seems like it needs more time than that. And in that case, it's probably going to break down if that's the case. But we'll see. We will see. It's definitely possible to keep riding this narrowing to the upside for sure. So we'll see. But relatively speaking, it's weak, particularly because of that. But it's relatively strong because it still hasn't made a lower low. Okay, that's it. That's Ethereum right now. Next, we look at XMR. And yeah, look how cleanly and nicely it got rejected by the Ichimoku cloud. I think I'm going to get rid of this zone. It's not so important right now. The cloud did its job. I think we can get rid of this as well for now. We've got the 200-week moving average above, healthily above. Currently, we've had quite the positive momentum, and now Monero, different than others, looks like it wants to bearish MACD cross, but you know, you can get different, more than one or two mounds of histogram positivity. So maybe it's going to continue higher, but it has spent quite some time in the positive territory and could very well turn negative momentum. However, if you can continue to hold at this 20-week moving average, you'll likely trade into this Ichimoku cloud first before potentially turning over again. So it's definitely possible that you make another move up, and then you kind of come down after kind of double weakness there. But that basically means that that you're not really going to not really going to continue. You're most likely to the up. You're going to continue down this way. And yeah, we'll see if this horizontal level can hold in that case. But if not, then that's even weaker. So these are good levels here to hold. If you do that, then you're in relative good position on a long-term basis, but that's because of the price action down here. But yeah, like you've got this overhead pressure here. So my guess is you are coming back down here, and then that danger is that you don't hold this level. So we're going to see Monero against BTC. What happens? You know, you're up at the higher end. Hey, doesn't that mean potential to go into an oversold territory still, because you didn't get oversold here? So yep, possible. But at this point, upper end of the Bollinger Band, good chance that that you can still come back down. We'll see though. You've got a lot going for Monero in both directions. It's just that you were just most recently rejected here, so for now the bias is to the downside. You are getting good healthy support here at the 20-week moving average, so maybe the squeeze is on and you do jump higher. But eventually, I think, again, even if you do go oversold, or whether you don't even go as high, and even if you make another positive histogram mount and don't get a bearish MACD cross yet, you're still eventually going to get one. And I don't think you move much higher than this level. So yeah, that's where that's standing. And if anything, you're moving back into this lower level here sooner than later. So that's Monero against BTC. Okay, now let's get to Polkadot. BTC on the weekly price chart. What kind of levels did we reach? We reached our zone, our lower zone. Didn't quite touch the, the line we drew, but we're in that lower zone and bounced back from the lower end of the Bollinger Band towards this this 20-week moving average. And the great thing is you didn't make your bullish MACD cross yet. So hey, DOT has a chance to make a bullish MACD cross. I don't know how big of a bounce it's going to be. I don't. Maybe it's just a small little few weeks, and then it continues, or maybe it finds some sort of a basing here. I don't know what it's exactly going to look like, but it looks good that you have a potential for a bullish MACD cross, and you've already bounced quite decently. So yeah, that's pretty cool. Let's extend. Oops. Let's extend that, but that's not the one I wanted to extend. I wanted to extend this one. Because yeah, you're still kind of in that channel. So what's going to happen? I mean, if you don't make the bullish cross and you turn bearish again, I mean, that would be quite unfortunate. But I think we're finding a sign here that DOT, if it does kind of break higher and then come back down to retest the continued thing, I mean, it could even come back down to these levels, but then you're in a different position relative to this channel, and you could find your base and then move higher. And by the way, this move up to down here, I mean, you're in 2023, here's January of 2023. So this is definitely a pathway that I see as a potential for DOT. Maybe it doesn't make it this high. I don't know where it goes. Maybe it only, maybe it only goes here and then comes down. Maybe it's just a quick one up and then it takes time to come down, whatever, I don't know where it exactly comes down to, but that's the general sense. And if you can hold that level, then you're in a good position. Again, you're making higher lows. So then the next move is to make higher highs than this. But that's going to take some time. That's going to take some time. Yeah, I don't think you went oversold on the RSI yet. No, you didn't. Didn't quite go oversold, but you went quite low. Yeah, it's hard to say here. It could get rejected at this levels here and turn back down. Maybe chop around a bit. The price could still go up, but overall, I get the sense either you get rejected here and you're coming back down here faster, or you go higher and then you come back down a little slower, but you eventually get to the, oops, it's horrible. Eventually you get down to the channel, wherever that is, around here somewhere or whatever, and then you have potential either to base or, yeah, that's usually what happened. It'll have to base first, most likely, with these alts. Okay. want to, so that's DOT. I just want to double check with BNB last time. Did it base? What did it do? Yeah, BNB, it tried to base, then it did the COVID low. Not even, it's capitulated. So where was 2020 March? Wow, okay. So BNB, this was the dump in March for BNB. It's nothing. It had a much bigger capitulation in when Bitcoin was really doing its move up, you know, from like 10K to 60K. That was this move on Bitcoin between, you know, basically September to December or January 2021. And so that's when you get like the alt against BTC, alt BTC pair dumps when BTC is ripping to the higher end at the beginning of cycles, or like when it's having its cycle. It's bullish cycle, I should say. It's impulsive to move to the upside cycle. Yeah, so I was just looking at that because, you know, really it was more of a capitulatory move here rather than a basing move here. You had your basing and then it capitulated lower, but then it reclaimed that and in fact reclaimed a higher than the previous all-time. That was a wild move. Okay, let's get out of BNB. I just wanted to see about basing. So you don't have to necessarily base, but they tend to form a base even if it's going to capitulate. So that all that to say for DOT, you know, looking for the base to form, even if it's going to capitulate and reclaim it, but a base should be forming first. So that's what we're looking for all of these things. We're looking for a base of some sorts. So FTM Phantom against BTC has some area to go. I mean, it's nice here. If it's going to use this as support, then you're basically supporting above this previous price action, which is quite filling of this horizontal zone. But let's see. I mean, are you going to get a? Yeah, I mean, yeah, this is going to take some time. This is going to take some time. You could be turning up with further positive momentum, and maybe you make it to this upper end here, but I don't know if you're going to crack this yet. I don't think you do. If you're lucky, you make it to the 20-week moving average. But I think your upside potential is here. But more than likely, you've got some continued downside potential. Lower end of the Bollinger Bands is all the way down here. I don't see why it doesn't come back down here. So Phantom has a ways to go. It still didn't even get into an oversold position yet. And look at all that energy and overbought. So even if it doesn't go oversold, I mean, it's going to take time, much time. So I don't think we're there yet, but I mean, it's basically been straight down. So I don't see why it can't even bounce up to here. You know, that's probably not even a, yeah, it's barely not even a 38.2% retracement. It's not even, so that's possible, but anyway, overall it's pretty weak, so I don't see much coming. I mean, I see more so something like that than anything. And that would mean that it's weak into 2023. That's, and then it's below this. That's possible. If it can stay above this price action, even if it gets in there or even below, but then quickly gets back above that, that could be relatively strong. That's the only way I see some strength in this chart. This is going to take some time. We got to fill all this space over here into 2023. Looks like, and possibly towards 2024. Let's see. All right, that's Phantom. Next is Solana. Oh ho ho. Wow. We're not quite there yet, but it looks like we did get our turnaround, and we are. Who knows what it's going to look like? I don't think it's going to take that long to get up there. It'll probably go spike faster and then continue dumping. But making some relatively positive movement, not quite getting that bullish cross yet. And even once it gets a bullish cross, I think, again, it's going to take time, this price chart. And you're lucky if you stay within this zone here, within this price action. If this is a way to support, if this is your support, if the top of this price action, it becomes your support even further along the line into the end of 2022 and 2023, then you're very strong. But you're below the Ichimoku cloud forming here. Forget about this downtrending resistance and this downtrending support here. Generally, you're in a downtrend, and that means, you know, you're either going to test this lower end here, the zone of price action, and then test even further down here. But if you're going to test that and hold this zone, then you're overall in a really strong position against BTC, because then you've made a barely a 50% retracement. That would be super solid. Okay, so don't even be surprised if it makes it 61.8, but the 78.6 really and the 88.6, I think, are the zones where big bearishness is played out. So, but if that's the case, I'm guessing that you're in real pain. Solana is not really doing well in terms of its, you know, its actual usage and prospects. So in this case, I see this zone as a pretty safe zone to use in terms of, is this thing strong or weak? And that's going to, again, it's going to take time. Once the price is in this zone even, it's going to take time. You're going to want it to base similar to this. You're going to want it to base. So I'm concerned for this chart as well. I do see potential to keep going down. Good luck out there. I also, like I said, see potential to base here in this level, okay, or even lose it and come back into it, and then you're in a good position. But again, I think for a lot of these alts, it looks like they need to fill this space, you know, of time. I don't know where it's going to be, but it's going to be filled, and it's not going to be filled with a higher moves up. It's going to be filled probably, you know, either it's going to move down faster and then find its way to fill that space lower, or it'll move up and move down and fill the space higher. But this space of time until 2023 is definitely getting filled, or sorry, until 2024. The space of time of 2023 for the altcoins is going to be a time to try and find a base against Bitcoin and start to show either strength or weakness relatively on a longer term basis, you know, look comparing to previous lows. So let's see what happens. That's Solana. We go to AVAX against BTC. Oh, wow. So you went to the lower end of the Bollinger Band, previous kind of resistancy area, price action chop here, resistancy and supportive. So fine, you get a bounce maybe to the 20-week moving average if you're lucky, but more so than not, you're going to get rejected by this price level. You're not even higher than this really yet. So yeah, you know, you just kind of chop into here and then move further down. I think, did you go oversold? Barely, but you did. I think you can come back further oversold. And I do think the price has a good likelihood to get down here to this, at least to this level here. We're going to see, though, this is going to be an interesting chart to watch. Let's just take a look at something here. Yeah, you broke down this long-term trend here from these lows. That's not a good sign. Even if you get up here, you know, you're likely rejected by 20-week moving average. You got the Ichimoku cloud above, and you've got this, you know, the underside of the previous uptrend. So that energy is going to reject you most likely, and you come down here. And in that case, I mean, you're probably going 1-to-1 with this, if not more. So I don't see why you don't at least come down to these lows, but more likely than not, I don't know. I don't see this holding either. Maybe Polkadot makes even a lower low. That would be deadly. Sorry, Polkadot Avalanche, I meant. That would be deadly. Best case scenario is you hold those price levels as support and you can find your base there. Definitely possible, but yeah, you've lost this upward momentum. So at best, you're going to get rejected by that type of level and keep going down. And this would mean actually you're looking at potentially a, yeah, like 1-to-1 is down here. So yeah, whatever. Generally though, that's the energy of the movement. And even if you look at the momentum here, I mean, it's got time to go. So 2023 is in here. I don't know if it's gonna, like, what it's gonna look like over here, but you definitely need time. You need time. You need a lot of time. Just want to check that Solana because I was talking about being in 2023. Here, yeah. Yep, so that makes sense too with Avalanche. This looks even worse, you know, like what does it do? I don't know, but you're going into 2023, you've got to, and you just got to hope that you're not below this. Okay, so we go to MATIC against BTC. No man's land, as they say. I mean, yes, you're getting some support from the top end of this price action there. Oh, wow. Look how nice support that is. You know, you're at the top end of relatively of this price action. Okay, you're getting some support there. But I don't know how long that lasts for you. You're just at the lower end of the Bollinger Band though. So hey, you know what? If MATIC is going to be strong, you know, on a long-term scale, then this would be a great low, at least intermediate low, before moving to the 20-week moving average or something like that, and getting rejected and coming back down and testing this low, and maybe even making a lower low. And then if you could reclaim that into 2023, that would be huge. Maybe a more likelihood would be to get to this level though. I feel like this is more of the level. If you can do that, then you're at like this previous type of zone here. You've got this price action here that can use as support, then fine. But then it also just looks like a more decent shape of correction. However, we're going to see what happens, especially if you can reclaim this price level here and hold it. Wow, that's super strong, but I don't know. Anyway, for now, you're at the lower end of the Bollinger Band. There's definitely room for a turnaround with some relatively positive momentum. Did you go oversold on the RSI? Yes, you did. Now you're coming back in, but you're still, I believe, still oversold. Yeah, it's still oversold on the RSI. So whatever, we're going to see where this goes, but there's definitely room to get up a little bit. Maybe it just gets rejected here though. And by then the 20-week moving average is down there. Whatever, we're going to watch that. We're going to see. But yeah, it's going to take time. And is it going to be between this zone here or what? We're going to find out. So stick around for more. Thematic. Okay, then we have Atom against BTC. And Atom making a higher low, lower end of the Bollinger Band. We're at this this level here, this zone that we already had carved out here. So that's pretty good. I mean, not surprising you get a bounce here. And does that mean we've had previous chop within this zone? So maybe this zone becomes the area of accumulation. That would be solid for Atom. You get not even oversold yet, hasn't oversold. So we'll see what ends up happening there. Danger if you start breaking down below this level. So we're going to see, does it get rejected here by 20-week moving average and this horizontal level? Does it even make it up to the Ichimoku cloud? I don't know. I don't think so. But you never know. A bit of a if it gets a bit of a push. But yeah, it still looks like it needs a lot of time. You had a lot of positive, strong momentum. It's just breaking down and finding now a way to base out, but it's going to take time for that to happen. And ultimately, we've gone from this level high to this level low. We've been back down to this type of level low. We've been up to this level high. So maybe it's going to come down to this level low again after chopping around in the middle a bit. We'll see. Yeah, that's a good possibility. Just chops in here and then gets down and then comes back up into 2023. If that's the case, then you can expect to go up there. That would be huge. And if not there, then at least there, you know, up to that level. So we'll see though. Let's watch it play out. I think there's definitely a good case for something like that. All right. Anyway, that's that for now. Atom against BTC. Okay, got some number, small number remaining, about 4 of them remaining. One of them is RUNE against BTC. And RUNE also finding this zone again as support. However, we are at a lower low than the previous low. So, and you haven't touched the lower end of the Bollinger Band yet, really, since this top end of the Bollinger Band. So, not looking good. Lower end of the Bollinger Band is around this price zone here. Let's carve it up. Roughly around here. This price zone here. So watch out for RUNE to even fall further. Let's put that in there and say this downtrending resistance might prove to continue as resistance. Not sure. It does have the potential to turn back around momentum wise, although nothing is really indicating that. So yeah, we're going to see what happens here with RUNE. It's not really giving any clear signals of definite, you know. Yeah, it's kind of in like just a middle, potentially a middle territory, although watch this level. So currently it's getting rejected, or at least it's, I shouldn't say rejected, but it's trying to push back into these previous support levels. So is it going to be turned resistance and break down from there? So where you really want to watch for the price to get like, to start challenging in this level here, and even to get above the zone, then there's a good chance to make it up to 20-week moving average. But if not, then you're getting rejected by this previous support. That's definitely a sign of further weakness, and you probably tumble down to this next level within due time. All right. That's it for RUNE for now. Yeah. Let's move over to NEAR against BTC. NEAR BTC really has continued, you know, since that Luna week of capitulation. It has just continued to break down further down the lower end of the Bollinger Band, and is now getting some bounce. It's getting a decent bounce, but I think momentum wise, going to take some time. Definitely going to take some time. And I don't think it's going to get enough of a bounce to really challenge this Ichimoku cloud with significance. I think regardless of where you go, whether you go up there, or especially if you go below it, even if you go up to the previous levels of support resistance, I think you eventually break down. And now the question is, can you hold this level? And in that case, that would be pretty awesome. But there's a good chance that it gets down to this level first. So yeah, I think NEAR needs to come down to these levels to clear out this price action. And maybe you only need to come to this level here and make some sort of 88.6 off of these lows in terms of retracement. So let's say you take these lows and you retrace 88.6. Here's your 88.6. It's this price action here. If you can hold that as support, or even better, the 78.6, which is at the lower end of the Bollinger Band, then you're in business for the next cycle to make higher highs, potentially. But I think based on all of this move, we've got a long way to go. We've got to fill this space for sure. There's no doubt in my mind. So let's see how it plays out. Will it be more so in the lower end, in the upper end, in a bit of both? We're going to find out. It's going to be interesting to watch. But I do think that this zone here is a reasonable zone to look out for. Okay, that's it for near against BTC. Oh, the Doge. Let's check out the Doge. Let's check out some of the metrics on Dogecoin. Okay, so are we making accumulation here? Or are we going to continue dumping further? We're getting rejected by the 20-week moving average. We did make a bullish MACD cross. So we're going to see what happens here. Price is narrowing. I think it definitely takes more time. And, you know, it's, no, we got to wait for that. Yeah, it's showing weakness here. It's getting rejected. So what are you going to do? You know, it is what it is. That's the Dogecoin right now. It's getting potentially rejected by these previous levels. So watch out. Of course, it could push up to the higher end of the Bollinger Band, but again, it's more so in an accumulation, or sorry, yeah, at the best, it's an accumulation, but potentially it's still in a distributive phase to make its moves further down. Okay, we've got one more to go. It's TRX, but things are starting to get slowed down and choppy. So we're just going to have our luck here, see how it goes. We're almost done this price chart video action. Let's see here. It's coming. You can press fast forward if you want. TRX. Oh, snap. Okay, let's redo this. Okay, just bear with me here. We're nearly done. It's coming. Sometimes it just kind of resets itself because it gets a little overwhelmed. Okay, here we are. Back in the game. Boom. So we go TRX showing some strength. It made its way climbing the wall of the upper Bollinger Band here, breaking above the Ichimoku cloud quite decently. There's a bit of a potential topping candle here, though. That's definitely a concern. You know, you have had quite some positive momentum. You're at previous highs, might be topping. You're potentially getting rejected by previous support, turned resistance. So that is one of the concerns right now for TRX, making your way above the Ichimoku cloud. Now the question would be, will you find a base here at the 200-week moving average? And then you get a cross here of the 20-week moving average. And that would be definitely the sign of strength for TRX, because then you'd be holding this type of previous resistance, now potentially becoming a support zone. And TRX might in that case be, you know, like a chain link of this market cycle, where chain link was moving against BTC while everything else relatively was not. It was moving up against BTC while everything else was moving down or sideways. So, however, the only issue here that I see right now is that you're basically in this oversold position. Okay, you're potentially or you actually are making a bearish divergence on the RSI, at least a hidden bearish divergence, if not an outright bearish divergence, where you've got that going on there. However, yeah, so it's not necessarily looking super strong at this point. You're gonna have to wait to see what the price action continues, because there's definitely a good chance that it turns over. Now, maybe it's only an intermediate move and there's higher prices still to go, but caution is definitely warranted in this scenario with TRX against BTC. All right, let's just give it one of these as well to see how that works. But I mean, if you're breaking down here, then very likely you're coming below the Ichimoku cloud. Well, depends how big of a breakdown. I mean, you could break down here and actually use this cloud and the 200-week and the 20-week as support. That would be the strong thing to do. But yeah, if you start breaking down this, then you're probably going to break down this trend as well. And you're going to be hoping that you can hold this level as support. But by that point, you'd be under the Ichimoku cloud, and it's like, that's weak. It's too close to you. You need to go further away from it. Unless you're ready to, again, to turn around and go higher again. It's possible. We'll see. TRX and a potential chain link of 2022. We shall see. Stick around with it, but this RSI, we definitely want it to reset first. Okay, so we'll keep an eye on that. And let's get rid of that for now, and we'll maintain this lower level here. All right. That's it for now for me. That's been the weekly roundup. If you have any requests or any feedback, share it in the comments below. Thanks for watching. I hope it's been helpful for you. And I'm wishing you love, peace, and happiness. Goodbye.